Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 640, Enhanced Games and Instant Classics. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I've gotten some feedback already on our last podcast. People are not happy with the Billie Eilish knockdown.
Really?
I had two separate text messages telling me that they love that Billie Eilish song, and how dare we disrespect it.
Hey, we didn't do anything. You know how you like to separate yourself from some of the social media drama we've been involved in? That's entirely ours, me. Those were your comments and your comments only. I was fine with that song. I thought it was, it was like it was the big hit of the summer, really. So I took no objection to the fact that it was award winning.
I stand by my comments.
It's good. We're a podcast that does stand by our comments, even in the face of backlash. So it's one of the things we're known for. Speaking of feedback, well, actually, speaking of feedback, we were just speaking of a former co-host, Sam, whose name is name rarely mentioned now. He's been in touch. He had a topic suggestion for us. Well, actually, to show the fact that he doesn't listen to the podcast at all, the first question was, have you covered this topic? To which I said no. And then he suggested that we did. This is obviously an opportunity, I guess, to say to people, if you do want us to cover a topic, if you do want to suggest a potential guest, then you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Let us know there. But his suggested topic, I don't know how closely you've been following this development, was the enhanced games. Are you aware of this project?
No.
So the enhanced game is the brainchild of this Australian businessman. And basically he wants to create a version of the Olympic Games in which all steroid use, performance enhancers are completely allowed, like no holds barred. So it's causing a little bit of backlash. It's supposed to take place, the first event, it's supposed to officially launch in 2025. And that's when it's supposed to be.
So are they going to drug test to make sure that you're taking?
I think it's no tests at all. So this week it's been in the news because the Australian Sports Commission's chief executive, Kieran Perkins, has been speaking very publicly about the fact that he thinks it's incredibly dangerous, and the fact that people have forgotten that the real reason why steroids and performance enhancing drugs were banned was not because for competitive reasons, but because people kept dying, and that this is not a good idea and that people will probably die as a result. But the thing that's really got some attention is, so far the only notable athlete to have committed to the idea is
Jose Canseco.
No, that would have been good. It's an Australian swimmer, former Olympic medalist, and former world champion.
The Torpedo?
No, James Magnuson. He's 32 years old. Now, he really got some attention because of a quote. Now, I'll read this quote for you. He said he's excited to take part because he wants to compete in the 100-meter. I think it's freestyle, but I'm not entirely sure on that end. And he's confident that he'd be able to break the world record if he's able to take steroids. And then his quote was, "I'll juice to the gills and I'll break it within 6 months." And he later retracted this and said, "It's all going to be very scientific, but because I said that comment, people just went bam and ran with it. It's the one quote that I regret."
I mean, I have to say, it's not the worst idea. I think, so to put into context, WWE and other fake wrestling is one of the most lucrative markets in the entertainment industry. And whether they will admit it publicly or not, they are all also juiced to the gills because humans don't look like that naturally. So, I mean, you are looking at entertainment aspects that already do this, but I guess aren't publicly pushing it, right? I'm sure there are clean wrestlers in WWE. There's probably a small percentage, but I'm sure there are extremely clean, never juiced wrestlers. But the pushback I always had against not just legalizing it in baseball and other sports is it's unfair for the athletes that don't want to risk some sort of health event because they could substantially lose large amounts of money to someone who is, on steroids or some other illegal drug that's enhancing their ability and outperforming them, right? So I think that's where I always took the stance is I don't really care whether it's like tainting the history of the sport, whatever. I'm just more concerned that I think it's slightly unfair to people who don't want to risk dying or having severe health events and are going to lose out on something that they probably should, be making money on. But if you make the playing field where everyone is allowed to, and if you're an athlete, you can still compete in the non-juiced Olympics, then I'm all for that.
So, one follow-up, I guess, and one question in response to what you said. So I guess kind of building on what you're saying, there's also just the concern of how it impacts particularly young athletes, right? So the idea that
obviously,
adolescents would now
I'm saying this
steroids.
half jokingly.
I know you are, but I'm just saying we have to address that fact, right? That's where it's one thing to be a 26-year-old professional athlete and making the decision, hopefully with some kind of medical support, even if you're doing it, like even if it's Balco, even if you're doing it illegally, you still have someone who maybe has an idea what they're doing trying to help you. It's another thing to be a 13-year-old in your garage just injecting yourself with something you bought outside of your, like in the parking lot of your gym. But follow up to that. Now, let's say this kind of took off. Is there a point, if let's just then say they're breaking pretty much every track and field swimming record, at what point do you stop watching the traditional Olympics? There are simultaneous events. When would you ever consider being like, well, the enhanced games, everything's bigger, faster, stronger. I guess I'll watch that over these boring, normal humans doing things amazingly.
No, I think I would still probably prefer to watch the non-juiced Olympics just because I think I could relate better to that, right? Because as being someone who's not juicing, I can understand the limitations and, how significant of a record that is versus someone who is enhancing themselves. Although, I mean, but it would be the sideshow almost of just, like, oh, that's on today. Let me see how ridiculous this is. It would be like a ridiculous aspect, I think, versus I would never think it's legitimate.
You kind of touch on a good point there, though, because that's one of the things that will probably hold it back is that ideally when you watch athletes, you think the thing that separates you from them is natural talent and then incredible hard work and dedication. However, if you're watching the enhanced games and part of you also thinks it's just a willingness to take steroids, it does maybe change the degree to which you would appreciate what they achieve. Like it definitely becomes slightly less impressive. The interesting twist would be to launch a similar concept, say like the Tour de France. Say someone was like, we're going to just run the Tour de France, but we're just saying we're not testing anymore because we know you think all of these cyclists are doping anyway. So now you just get to watch the best thing. Like every team member is Lance Armstrong now, and we're not even going to pretend that people aren't. Those are sports where I almost feel like you could potentially get traction just because people assume everyone's guilty anyway. But yeah, I don't know if I'd want to watch sprinters and stuff.
I mean, the main issue is what you said, right? I think because there are many examples, although again, not public, of people who are on very regimented, illegal, I guess not slightly illegal, but performance enhancing drugs to aid in their mass for, an acting role or for entertainment purposes or something like that, that in that very controlled probably with doctors involved and blood work done routinely, it can be relatively safe. But the issue then becomes, I mean, you talk about with, younger kids then seeing this and wanting to emulate that, which is absolutely terrifying. But then even the 28-year-old who was like a Division III athlete and says like, fuck it, I've got nothing to lose, and just starts taking stuff like crazy, that's where it's going to be really terrible. Like that is the worst case scenario, and that will happen within months. As soon as the first games happen and someone sees that someone on there makes over $1,000, there will be people out there who will just go over the top and not have that like group of scientists and doctors helping them in a controlled setting, and it will end very badly.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some horror stories. If you did really kind of open Pandora's box on this one, there would be some terrible, terrible stories. Positives, I guess. You also there mentioned the fact sometimes this isn't illegal. Like there's plenty of sports in which you can't take HGH, but then if you or I were to get injured, there's a strong chance we might be prescribed HGH as part of a recovery process, depending on what it was. But a professional athlete couldn't do the same. Same like Kobe Bryant, right? Went for that platelet rich. No, yeah, I know where you thought I was going to go. I'm not going to go that controversial, but he went for that like plasma therapy surgery in Germany for his knee, which was allowed in Germany, not allowed in the US. Kind of wasn't allowed by the NBA because he did it in the off season. It was sort of kind of turned a blind eye to it. So you do fall into these weird gray areas where the average person could take something, but a professional athlete can't, which is always interesting. But yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe we can be the official podcast of the enhanced games. Definitely some interesting sponsorship opportunities for athletes there. Would love it just to have guys like plastered with various pharmaceutical companies.
So I'll stick on this, Eddie, with a similar obscure sports story. Sam did not suggest this, but Yahoo Sports suggested this to me. So earlier this month, musher Dallas Seavey became the first 6-time champion of the Iditarod sled dog race that takes place annually in Alaska. This is the 52nd running, and he's the first 6-time champion. I bring this up for those who are unaware. It's the race where you have to have the dogs and the sled, and you go about 1,000 miles, starting in Anchorage, Alaska, and ending in Nome, Alaska, with your team of dogs traveling, about 1,000 miles. He finished it in 9 days, 2 hours, and 16 minutes. So you're looking at about over 100 miles a day. He was traversing, or I should say the dogs are traversing. he's technically,
he's traversing it as well. He's just not he's not powering himself.
But the crazy part was, and I guess this isn't that crazy, but to me as an outsider reading this story, on the second day, officials say he had to shoot a moose in self-defense after the moose became entangled with the dogs and the musher on the trail. Unfortunately, he was given a 2-hour penalty. Why, someone may ask, for when he tried to just defend himself from a moose that was tangled? Because he did not sufficiently gut the animal as required by race rules.
Very
the moose meat was salvaged and distributed to the people to eat.
Look, I can get it, right? Because there's such a backlash to these types of events that if you throw in hunting as part of the process, that they probably want to check every potential box in terms of efficiency there. I watched a documentary once on the Iditarod races. Now, talking about prolific drug usage, those guys are on
like speed.
Yeah, just to stay awake. And there's some really sad stories of like addictions that get built as part of their sort of competitive edge, and then just end in complete heartbreak. Because a lot of the times too, in the documentary I was watching, the people were a combination of like crab fishermen, like that's how they're earning their money a lot of the time, like the deep sea fishing.
And then just kind of doing this on the side. Yeah,
this is their passion, but they have to get a job that they can do seasonally and that pays really well.
That
So,
combo is even worse.
Yeah.
Because for anyone who's watched those TV shows, they also look pretty stressful.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is, you're creating a superhuman for drug usage between that combination of activities, but not as uplifting as you really care for their dogs and stuff. That's not the depressing part of the documentary. It's just more the actual human element is not great.
Yeah. So only 38 competitors this year. In the heyday, it used to be 70 to 80.
Would you do it?
Absolutely not.
No?
No. Apparently, back when it was first starting, the average time was about 17 to 20 days. And that was when it was more amateurs doing it. And now it's become, like a legitimate sport. So you have professionals in a sense, I guess, because there are more than just this race. There are other races they can compete in. But having 20 days on a sled going 1,000 miles in the freezing cold, no, I think I'm good. Would I like to go to Alaska? Yes. Would I like to tour Alaska? Yeah, absolutely. Would I like to do it that way? Absolutely not.
I mean, you can do it as slowly as you want, I guess. There's nothing stopping you from using it as a nice gentle stroll through the Alaskan wilderness. But yeah, we won't throw that into the list of potential big chill activities. Now, speaking of Sam, something we used to do with Sam, right? Given his total lack of knowledge when it came to American collegiate sports. March Madness starts tomorrow, and we always used to get him to do a zero knowledge bracket. I don't know if you saw, but I think DraftKings, I think this is in conjunction, it's with Pepsi. They're doing a bracket challenge where if you get everything wrong, you win, I think it's $100,000. Now, we've kind of done, I think previously we've discussed like what are your odds of getting everything right for those, sometimes there's been outrageous sums offered for the perfect bracket. Virtually impossible. This actually seems kind of doable because obviously people have said, well, statistically it's the same. I mean, it's not, because you just have to get the first round wrong. Because if you get everything in the first round wrong, that means you're getting everything subsequently wrong. If you see what I mean, like you have none of the round 2 matchups. So as long as you get
got it.
As long as it's basically, can you predict round 1 incorrectly is really what the challenge is, because that guarantees that all subsequent rounds are completely wrong. So, which is what, 32 games? Is that right? 64 teams, right? So 32 games.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say you've got a very small chance of doing it, but it's actually possible. If they run this for years, someone will get this right for sure.
Yeah, there's a much better chance of getting that right.
Because every year people survive round 1.
Actually, usually no. I would say most years, I feel now people haven't survived year 1.
Well, there's been more. There's more upsets.
Yeah.
Like before, you used to be able to guarantee like 1 seeds for sure. We're going through 2, 3, 4 seeds. Now you're definitely having to deal with more upsets. I mean, how heartbreaking would it be to have everything right aside from a 1 seed losing to a 16 seed?
Yeah.
Like that would be.
So here's my question: can you put in multiple brackets? Because then you run the risk, or I guess, would you rather play for the 100,000 and try and pick every game wrong in that first round, or play for what's the top prize, $1 million, to get it to be the best?
I think I think I've got a better chance of getting everything wrong, especially if I enter 3, 4 brackets. Like I think you'd have to go chalk probably on like the 1, 2 seeds, start to reduce the number of variables that you have, and then start mixing things up. But I mean, I
think I would just get confused trying to pick a bracket by picking the teams I think won't win, but having to choose the other. You know what I mean? Like that would just get to me after a while.
I mean,
because then you would have to pick all the 16 seeds, 15 seeds, 14 seeds to win. But then when you get to the 7s and 10s, I think my mind would just kind of like mess with me about like, am I picking the team to win or to lose, or the team that wins to lose?
Yeah, I mean, we have definitely discussed this. I think it's been mentioned on the podcast previously, right? That I had a math teacher in high school on multiple choice tests. They used to say if you got 0%, you get 100% because he thought you needed to know just as much to get nothing right as you would to get everything right. And for the most part, and he was happy for you to take the risk. Like if you thought you were going to fail and you were happy to switch from again trying to get a 50% to a 0%, he was happy to watch you fail and get a 9% in the process. So it's along similar lines, but I'll be interested. Someone will win this if they run this for 5 years. Like someone will win this for sure. It's just, I think people probably think it's easier than it probably is going to be, but still, if enough people sign up, eventually someone's going to predict round one, right?
So, do you have a winner?
I mean, I've watched such little college basketball over the course of this year. I have seen some of those things pop up
I
with
mean,
the
you've seen college basketball live.
I've seen one game live, and on that basis, I will say I do not think that the University of Arizona is going to win.
Now, I think we've talked about this previously. There's like I forget exactly what they are, but there's like three statistics that a lot of people have gone back in and looked at with like the offensive production versus the defensive, blah, blah, blah. And you can like eliminate a lot of teams and it'll give you like 8 to 10 teams that technically potentially could win. And I think the last 6 or 7 years, it's always been one of those teams. Arizona does. I saw the person who does that. Arizona does hit that qualification.
Yeah, I think you're
So
alluding to, they call it the trapezoid of excellence. It's probably the
that
thing
could
you're
be it.
speaking about. It's a combination of pace of play and
Yes, the pace of play.
net rating adjusted for opponent. And yeah, the University of Arizona is very, very highly rated from that perspective. I think heading into this tournament at the moment, I think Houston is the best based judged on those parameters. Their second favorite, or yeah, six to
Houston's a
one.
1 seed.
Yeah, there's Connecticut. UConn is favorite at 4-1. Arizona is joint fourth favorite. So you could take a swing at it along with North Carolina. I don't know. It's so hard. I know Barack Obama picked UConn. I think he's never done well with his bracket, so I'll eliminate.
And he's never done well at the country either.
Yeah. So I'll eliminate them. I'll go Houston. We've just semi-promoted this statistical concept, so I guess I'll go with it. What's your pick? Are you sticking?
I'm gonna stick with U of A. I'll stick with Arizona.
Company man. All right. Speaking of other topics then that we covered on recent episodes, seeing as you mentioned it earlier, maybe worth doing a little catch up on NFL free agency, NFL trades, some big news over the past few days. One thing that interests me, I was reading an article because Marvin Harrison Jr. heading in, I know we spoke about Caleb Williams and how his non-participation in the combine and his just overall attitude could potentially impact his draft value. Although I guess we'll get onto that later as a result of the Bears' decision to trade away Justin Fields. But Marvin Harrison Jr. also has not participated in any of the combine events. He did not participate in Ohio State's Pro Day, and he was supposedly not asked. He's spoken to 9 teams, I think. I mean, he's definitely being drafted before 9 of those. Most of those teams have a chance to get their hands on him, but none of those teams supposedly requested that he participate in any events or expressed any interest in them. And part of the argument was that they can get all of the information and data they need nowadays from like the GPS trackers that the players wear so they can see top speed, all of those elements. It gets to the point, like if we're just going to do this, what's the point of the combine anymore anyway? Like if you're just going to be able to say to someone, look, we've got all my data from 2, 3, 4 years of play. You can see my top speed, average speed. You can see a lot of recovery data as part of that. Why do I need to watch some guy bench press and think, wow, my views of him have radically changed?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the combine, it's so sad because I loved the combine, but the combine now has become an opportunity, I think, for like less prolific college players to have a showcase to kind of prove themselves, which I guess at the end of the day is kind of nice for them that they're getting a center stage. But it is kind of annoying that none of the major athletes are participating, or they're doing their own special day where everything is completely to their standards and their likings and their settings. So yeah, it is still kind of, I guess, nice for those types of players, but it does kind of suck now because there is so much coverage of it, and you're covering some guy who's going to be picked in like the 7th round.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. It would be sad in a way to see it disappear, but I guess the only thing you can say is that for some athletes, occasionally it gives them an opportunity to show how committed they might be to becoming a professional athlete. Like when you do see some players who have a minor transformation between the end of their college season to what they then do in a pro day, then maybe as a team you get to see what type of commitment they might bring to a professional environment. But at the same time, you could argue, how much am I going to trust what I get to see from a guy, what a guy does in 3 months when he's focusing on becoming a multi-millionaire versus the 3 to 4 years when he had every opportunity to fundamentally work pretty much as hard as this and kind of didn't. Like, why would I place it? Would almost, if I were a GM, I'd almost be like, that's very impressive that you got faster and stronger in that period of time. But it also kind of makes me question why you didn't do it before this. But I don't know.
So I'm not sure what were the latest trades and signings we discussed on the last one. Where did we end? So we didn't obviously discuss Fields, right?
We didn't do Fields. We did Kirk Cousins. We did Jameis Winston. We did Saquon Barkley. Those were the main ones we covered. So yeah, there are a few. Justin Fields is obviously the biggest, but then there are some free agent signings since
Did we do
then.
Derrick Henry to the Ravens?
We did not do Derrick Henry to the Ravens, no. Oh no, we did. We did, because we spoke about how they're just building a team where they'll never throw.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That was it though. I think those were the ones that we covered. And I guess we mentioned Flacco to the Colts as part of that, perhaps.
Yeah. So I think so. One of the big ones for me, I think, is Hollywood Brown signing a 1-year deal for the Chiefs. And while I don't think Hollywood Brown is the greatest receiver on the planet, he's clearly an upgrade from Kadarius Toney, who can't even hold a can of corn. So I think that's going to be huge for them. And he is very quick too, so he'll fit right in with that offense that likes to do, all the pre-snap motions and kind of getting the receiver going before they even snap the ball. And he'll be a good fit for that offense. He's obviously not going to replace Tyreek Hill, but he does have some of that speed component that Hill has.
Yeah, no, I think it sees them improve. Still, for me, I don't think the Chiefs are that good, even though they won the Super Bowl, so it doesn't change my opinion of them too much. Another one I thought caught my eye was obviously Aaron Jones moving from the Packers to the Vikings. Rare to see someone. I mean, we kind of saw it with Saquon Barkley too, but to see someone go to such an intense divisional rival. I don't know if you saw his comments like the day after leaving the Packers and signing for the Vikings, that he didn't even know who was on the Packers roster, was the comment that he made in his press conference, which was kind of interesting, seeing as he'd been a member of the Packers team less than 24 hours prior. But yeah, I mean, Justin Fields is the really big news, right? So then, rather than a free agent signing, that was a trade, not totally unexpected in terms of the Bears deciding to shift Justin Fields away because they have the number 1 pick. They're expected to take Caleb Williams with that pick, but probably what they traded, who decided to take him. So we spoke last episode about the fact that the Steelers had signed Russell Wilson. They then also acquired Justin Fields through a trade. It's a pretty good combination of quarterbacks to have.
Yeah, 2 great backups.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a good starter.
And then all they had to give up was a 2025 sixth round pick, which, depending on playing time, could turn into a fourth round pick. You'd have to imagine, if it meets those playing time requirements, that even a fourth round pick will look like a bargain.
Yeah.
If Justin Fields doesn't do anything, then who really cares about having lost a sixth round pick in the process? So for the Steelers, it feels like a massive win, a risk-free move. The only issue, I guess you could say, from the Steelers' perspective, creates some quarterback discussion and debate for them. Like, who is their starting quarterback heading into the next season? Is that an open competition? Like, how are they going to work that out? What pressure will there be on either one of those quarterbacks if they're the starter and they struggle slightly early in the season? So that's the only, perhaps, slight downside for them, although I guess that's a good problem to have. From the Bears' perspective, it feels like they gave up Justin Fields super cheaply, and I don't really understand why. Like, even if at this price, I would have just kept him. Like, I can't. He seems to have been a popular figure within their locker room. I don't understand why you wouldn't just keep him around, lose him in free agency. I don't really get the point in trading him away for this type of value.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields was the 11th overall selection in the 2021 draft, and he's being traded away for a sixth round pick 3 years later. I mean, that is just crazy to me. At that point, I would at that point rather just eat the draft pick than get a sixth round pick and look like an absolute asshole of an organization. Because I mean,
they would have got a compensatory pick anyway, right? Even in free agency, when they've got like a seventh round pick, like one of those additional picks. Like, that's why the Niners got Brock Purdy, was through that process. They would have gone. I mean, okay, you're losing 35 draft spots, but you're taking a complete punt on whoever you're picking anyways. Like, it doesn't seem. I don't understand it.
I have a question for you. This draft class, you have taken shots at this draft class. This is the 2021. 5 QBs went in the 2021 draft class. Only one of those QBs has a 500 or better winning percentage. Do you want to guess at who that is?
Oh boy, this is going to be tough because, I mean, I know who the big one is in terms of name recognition. A guy who I love to be critical of is Trevor Lawrence, obviously. He has one playoff appearance, which would make me lean towards him being over 500. But then, I don't know. I guess I'll play it safe and I'll say Trevor Lawrence, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's slightly under 500.
You're incorrect. Trevor Lawrence is 20-30 as a starter.
Okay.
The only quarterback is Trey Lance, who is 2-2 as an NFL starter.
There we go.
So maybe you were right, Eddie. Trey Lance is the best quarterback from that draft class. Well, Justin Fields, 10-28. Zach Wilson, 12-21. And Mac Jones, 18-24. And all of them, except Trevor Lawrence, are now playing for other teams.
Well, Zach Wilson expected to be playing for another team, right? Like, I think he's technically still
or at Walmart, one or the other.
Yeah. Only Trevor Lawrence is a starter.
Yes.
That's a pretty terrible result from a draft class. And it's one of those points that goes back to when these teams, this jockeying for position over these quarterbacks coming out this year, and how game-changing people feel like Caleb Williams will be, or who any of these other quarterbacks will be. Fundamentally, historically speaking, it is kind of a crapshoot.
Well, this is where I have some issues, is because when you listen to people like Mel Kiper, during that draft class, he was pretty open in saying that Trevor Lawrence was the only quarterback in that class that would be a very highly rated quarterback. Because what I like about him is he'll like rank the quarterbacks in that draft, but he also compares his scores to other years. And that's where, like, he'll have years where he'll say, this is your top quarterback from the draft, but I put him at the same level as, like, I rated Dak Prescott, and you're going to take him number one. And I remember when this draft class came out, he was very high on Trevor Lawrence, which I think is still slightly to be determined, although he's definitely not as good as people would have hoped or expected, but there's still potential there. But he rated Zach Wilson and Trey Lance and Justin Fields all kind of close together and not very close to Trevor Lawrence. Like he saw a significant drop off, but then you still have like teams that are just willing to trade an arm and a leg. I mean, the Niners included, to try and get a spot high enough to get the second quarterback or get the third quarterback. And they don't take into perspective that maybe just wait a year. Maybe there's better quarterbacks. Like it's not worth wasting all of your draft picks and your potential talent on a guy who's, would be a third round quarterback the year before.
No, you're not wrong. And then that type of additional analysis where it's like there can be a major gap, you can kind of have tiers. I guess the argument is most people thought of Trevor Lawrence as this generational quarterback, the best quarterback since Andrew Luck, who was the best quarterback since Peyton Manning coming out of college. So you are putting yourself in rarefied air in terms of what the expectations are there. So that has to be considered. I guess the argument would be, it depends if you can get yourself into a tier group, right? So you think back to last year where I hate the rewriting of history that's being done a little bit in terms of CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young, where now it's spoken about as if everyone thought Bryce Young was exponentially better than CJ Stroud. Like CJ Stroud was taken the second pick of the draft, and there was some discussion as to whether or not he should have been the number one overall at the time. I guess if you're in situations like that, it makes sense to bump yourself up into that tier and say, we'll be happy with either one of these options. But it's true that it's such a gamble. It's such a crapshoot that, it's why the Patriots and Bill Belichick made a living of just trading down in the draft. And, logic would tell you basically if anyone wants to trade up to get your pick, you should just trade it away because with 2 picks, even in a later round, you probably have a better chance of getting elite talent from that than you do from even a top 5 pick in the first round, depending on the position you're taking. Some positions are a little bit more foolproof.
And I guess with that, the Steelers then traded away Kenny Pickett to Philadelphia. Kenny Pickett now is going to have his entire football career almost in the state of Pennsylvania after going from New Jersey to University of Pitt and then to the Steelers and now to the Eagles.
Yeah, not well traveled, Kenny Pickett.
No, for New Jersey to Pitt, Pennsylvania. That's as far as he's going.
Yeah, no, he stayed local. Kind of impressive. But no, it'll be interesting to see obviously what happens. I don't know what I would do because one of the arguments, right, with the Bears was Justin Fields is okay, trade down, get Marvin Harrison Jr. because everyone feels fairly confident that he's a generational wide receiver talent. And then maybe even you have the possibility of taking a different quarterback in this draft later on. I mean, they have 2 picks in the first round, so they could have easily ended up with one of the top 5 quarterbacks. This will be an interesting test case. Like that puts a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams. If Marvin Harrison Jr. turns out to be as good as we expect him to be, Caleb Williams better be a top 5 quarterback. Because if there's anyone halfway decent from elsewhere in this draft in the quarterback position, then this will be a major blunder on the Bears' part.
Yeah, and it's just also strange. I mean, I get that when you're taking the first pick, you want to make a splash and have that person out there and appease the fans. But I mean, how many times do we have to watch QBs get put out too early in the NFL and just get destroyed and either, not have a successful career or get injured or, just not have the potential, take longer to develop? I still don't understand what's the worst case scenario in you keeping Fields, letting him start 6 games and letting that number 1 pick just sit there, absorb, learn. And because if it's literally that we want to get a 6th round draft pick, I would rather have my number 1 draft pick QB sit the bench for 6 to 8 weeks and at least get a feel for the NFL versus getting a pick that probably won't amount to anything and having my number one pick get thrown out day one and potentially just be a little slow, adjusting to the NFL and get blindsided and be out for 8 weeks.
Yeah, no,
I don't get it.
Again, history would show that franchises that are patient with their quarterback, even number one overall picks, tend to be more successful. I saw, I've been a mini Sam Darnold supporter. I saw the statistic that heading into this season, Sam Darnold is now only the same age. Like at the start of this NFL season, he will be the same age as Aaron Rodgers was when he became the starter for the Green Bay Packers.
That's crazy.
So, that's a combination of the fact that Sam Darnold came in, was drafted, I think, when he was 20 with how things worked out for him. But he's had a 7-year NFL career, a decent chunk of which he has been a starter. And he is now only just reaching that stage where a quarterback many will consider to be the best quarterback of his generation got the chance to start. How much of Aaron Rodgers' success was as a result of being given time to learn the playbook, learn what it meant to be a professional, obviously probably benefit from learning from someone like Brett Favre, even if Brett Favre said he didn't really want to help him. Who knows how different Aaron Rodgers would have looked had he been drafted by another team and thrown into the deep end week one of his career. I guess based on talent, he's probably ends up still being successful, but it could be a different look. That could be the difference between Aaron Rodgers kind of having a career similar to Alex Smith versus being Aaron Rodgers.
So I've got one more NFL related discussion, and that is, you said that Marvin Harrison Jr. could be a generational wide receiver talent. Almost definitely will be the first wide receiver selected in the draft. The last 10 NFL drafts, I have the number one wide receiver selected. You tell me how good the number one receiver selected in NFL drafts turn out to be.
All right.
Do you want me to start youngest or oldest?
Start 10 years ago, because then how do you want me to grade them? What am I doing here on a grading system?
Noises.
Okay. Just raw human emotion.
2014, Sammy Watkins.
He had a period where that looked.
I thought we're doing only noises.
Sorry.
2015, Amari Cooper.
Again, I think here's the thing is, as you know, Frank, I'm not the most expressive human being in the world. I don't know if I got 10 noises in me, so there might have to be some words.
I don't think you need many. Corey Coleman.
Who?
Yeah. Corey Davis.
Also a who, I think.
DJ Moore.
Meh.
Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Meh, as well.
Henry Ruggs.
Oh, boy. Nothing can be said on that one.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I mean, that's so far appears to have been the only one to maybe justify that.
Drake London.
Who?
Really? On the Falcons? Drake London?
Okay, all right.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
And then last year, Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah, too early to judge, although decent rookie season.
Yeah, 628 and 4 TDs he had last year.
It's hard to judge anyone within who hasn't had at least sort of 5 years under their belt. Who knows? Because a lot of those wide receivers we would have felt differently about 5 years in for different reasons. With Ruggs, we might have felt a little bit different pre-DUI and killing someone in an accident. But even purely for on the field reasons, a lot of those guys had decent 1 or 2 season stretches and then weren't able to develop into the kind of finished product that you might have expected from that type of draft pick. All right, I guess that wraps up the NFL. Obviously, European football, not much going on. It's the international break, so nothing to speak of.
Can I lead us up?
Go for it.
Okay. So the match that we didn't get a chance to talk about that happened, I guess, now a few days ago.
4 days ago, yeah, the FA Cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
is the FA Cup semifinal.
Quarterfinal.
Yeah. Yes, quarterfinal. And that was Liverpool and Man United, which you termed an instant classic.
Yes, and often
surprising for a person who doesn't really like either team and gets very grumpy when people say games are instant classics or classics.
Often
to hear you say that was an absolute mindfuck.
I'm an unpredictable man, Frank. It's an often overused term for sure. It feels like most sports have 25 instant classics every season, which kind of defeats the purpose of the term. I think that is like an FA Cup game that 30 years from now will be being reshown on TV. Like, let's go back to the 2024 match between Manchester United and Liverpool in the FA Cup quarterfinals. I feel fairly confident in that. A couple of things going for it, obviously. Relatively high scoring, that always helps. Going to extra time, that always helps. And then late goals in both regular time and extra time always adds to that element. And lead exchanges. So not just a case of always one team coming from behind. You have United taking the lead, Liverpool scoring 2 late first half goals to then take control of the match, late equalizer from United to take it to extra time, Liverpool scoring first in extra time, United equalizing, and then United finding a winner right at the death of extra time. I think that meets pretty much everyone's requirement for what they would expect out of a classic. And then you throw in historically significant rivalry, 2 of the most historically significant clubs in world football. Yeah, it deserves the instant classic tag.
Yeah, I mean, to have 4 goals in regular time and then another 3 in extra time is pretty amazing. And on top of that, there were a lot of nice plays that didn't result in goals. It wasn't as if those were the 4 goals in regular time were like the only 4 significant plays. There was a lot of significant action and a lot of missed opportunities and saves and near misses right at the end. I texted you, I had Rashford and Salah to score and United to win, and Rashford missed that kick with like the last, pretty much the last shot.
Yeah.
And I was dying when I saw that. I literally jumped out of my chair and almost broke my coffee table coming back down. But I mean, it was so fun to watch. Like, it was never boring. It was always entertaining. It was always suspenseful. I mean, there were times where you thought United were going to win, and then times like, oh, that's it. Liverpool's got the momentum, even though momentum isn't a thing. They had it, and you thought it was over, and then. Even in extra time, I thought when Harvey Elliott scored that in extra time, I was like, it's over. They might win this 5-2, and then no, it was completely the opposite.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And in particular, obviously, you don't see the team scoring in extra time already within football, within soccer, the team scoring first goes on to win the overwhelming majority of matches. So, like, that goal has a heavy influence. That becomes even greater when you get into then scoring the first goal in extra time, because you've only got half an hour, obviously. So even if you're scoring at the very beginning, it gives you a limited time to try and respond. So yeah, no, I thought going into it, I thought Liverpool were going to win just because of the form they were in. And certainly once they took the lead, I expected them to win sort of on both occasions, both just before the half and then in extra time itself. But this Manchester United team just has that knack of whenever you think their season is a complete failure, whenever Ten Hag, whenever that pressure is really, really mounting, they find these weird results that will, there is a chance that this ends up being a relatively successful season for Manchester United because of the way results are unfolding for English clubs in Europe, and with the way the coefficients that determine how many. So for those completely unaware, basically the performance of your domestic teams in European competition are then the coefficients that are attributed to their success are then used to calculate how many places in European competitions your league gets. And because of how those coefficients are going to work out, it is almost certain now that there will be 5 Champions League places up for grabs in the Premier League this season. So if you're a team like Manchester United, where that top 4 maybe looked a little bit tricky, you're now talking about can they get into the top 5, which seems far more achievable. And there's a scenario here where United finish 5th and win the FA Cup, and they've got Champions League football next season, and they won, the third biggest trophy they could have won. And is that a bad season in the era of Manchester City dominance? You'd have to say that's pretty good. I don't think they're going to win the FA Cup, but that's not the point.
So, okay, that was perfect segue to my question. Did that match save Ten Hag his job, or does he have to win the FA Cup to save the job?
I think his job is probably safe anyway, because I think it's obviously difficult because they have new owners or new part owner with Radcliffe. I think they're going to commit to the idea of giving Ten Hag an extended period of time and not looking like a club that's just chopping and changing their manager constantly. So I think Ten Hag gets next season probably no matter what at this stage, even though I didn't think he was going to survive October at one point. Winning the FA Cup would absolutely guarantee that. Certainly winning the FA Cup and finishing 5th and getting Champions League football would absolutely guarantee that. But I think they'll give him another spin. That we have to deal with the reality. I don't think they will win the FA Cup, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. I think the really interesting outcome, though, from obviously now you have semi-finalists, you have a championship team in Coventry, you have then 3 of the big clubs in a sense. I guess throwing Chelsea into the big club discussion is a little bit generous, but Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City become heavy favorites to win the FA Cup. They got a tough draw in the Champions League, but in spite of that, they are favorites to win the Champions League. They're obviously, we spoke about it on the podcast last time, they are favorites to win the Premier League. If they can win the treble in back-to-back seasons, I think that goes up if you want to talk about me using hyperbole, that goes into the pantheon of sporting achievements, greatest sporting achievements. Like, that's a dynasty on par with anything we've seen, I think, in pretty much any other sport. Like, I don't know. It's difficult to imagine. To me, like, it's like winning back-to-back Super Bowls and having one of those be an undefeated season. Like, to me, that's the only thing in the NFL that you could do would come close to that. So, and the Patriots kind of got close to that at one point, but
they didn't win, did they?
No, but it's not something we've really seen. History would tell you that something will go wrong. There's some good teams left in the Champions League. They have a tough draw, but still, they are favorites for all 3 of those competitions, so it wouldn't be a stunner if they pulled it off. Now, with that international break, not too much to discuss about elsewhere, although a topic that we have discussed privately, and I guess we should mention on the podcast. Obviously, Ben White's decision not to be involved in this England squad. He was not included in the squad for England's upcoming 2 matches. He had pulled out of the World Cup squad 18 months ago-ish, whenever that was, last November, December. At the time, that led to a lot of speculation as to, whether it was family reasons, whether or not he was dealing with some personal issues that had led to him withdrawing. As it turns out, it seems clear that he was just unhappy with not being first choice at the time, and then no longer has any interest in playing in the England team until he's basically guaranteed to be first choice. And I think for him, he has no interest in being part of the England squad as long as Gareth Southgate is England manager, or coach, because he doesn't believe he will be first choice at least until there's a change there.
Are you saying first choice in line for the tanning bed because Grealish is currently ahead of him? Or?
Yeah, he can't get in there. Grealish is in there 23 and a half hours a day.
Yeah.
I hate this. Like, I really, with every...
what else would I expect?
But with every fiber of my being, I hate this.
Do you hate it more because of the club he's on?
No, but it kind of does contribute it to it, like the ego that they have going on at the moment, that I think permeates most of their sort of interaction with the public and the image that they give off. I think this is representative of that. Like, I think if Ben White is playing for Manchester City, Pep Guardiola is taking him aside and saying, hey, this is not a smart move, both because you will regret it in the future and because it may even just hurt your career in terms of who knows what representing England means for various things, whether that's future transfers, whether that's just for sponsorship and endorsement deals, even contractually. Like, I am sure he has bonuses in his contract relating to England appearances. Like, most Premier League players will have something like that in. So he's like, to give him his due, he's definitely making a decision that hurts him financially. That's almost certain. So I guess there's some integrity from that perspective. But
Can,
I
can I ask
hate
you real
it.
quick about Southgate in this scenario? Because if I read correctly, Southgate was kind of the one who broke the story in a way,
Yeah.
because he kind of just straight told everyone that no, he chose not to be on this team because he was getting so many questions about why Ben White, and I'm sure criticisms about why Ben White wasn't on the squad. I saw when it was announced on like the England Instagram, there was like 10,000 comments within 30 minutes about no Ben White. So do you think what do you feel about that part of it, with Southgate kind of just being honest and open and be like, no, he doesn't want to be on the squad, so fuck him?
Well, that's not quite what he said.
Sorry, I'm paraphrasing.
He said, I think you give him credit. He was really honest. He said he would have been in the squad, but he's chosen to make himself unavailable. So he's at least not being the asshole move from Southgate's perspective would have just been, I don't think he's good enough, or I think there are better options, or whatever he would have said. He at least acknowledged, had he not made himself unavailable, Ben White would have been in this squad. He has to do it right, because otherwise he is getting criticism for not including Ben White.
But he also said, Eddie, the door is still wide open. If you're Southgate, have you shut that door, locked it, put a fucking dynamite behind it?
I've Houdini'd him if I'm Gareth Southgate.
Oh, like, you're Dua Liping us.
he's been dumped off the Niagara Falls, and I'm not even looking for the barrel at this point. But I'm not. Not only if I'm Gareth Southgate, if I'm any future England manager, Ben White, I would be happy. That's a tough statement for, obviously, Gareth Southgate. He knows that this may well be his last tournament in charge for England. So, how strong a statement can he really make? And he definitely doesn't want to make a decision on behalf of any future manager. If I were the England FA, I would come out and say he is no longer being considered for future England squads. The argument for me as to why not, okay, lots of people would say people would pay money to play for England. They'd give their left arm to play for England. What an honor it is to represent your country. That's one thing. To me, it's more in a team environment. One, what issue does this raise for future managers and coaches? Do you have to pick him? Like, if you call Ben White up to the squad now, he has to be first choice. Like, there's no scenario now in which you can pick him and think, I don't know if he's the starter, but we'd love to have him in the squad. He's pretty versatile. He can play center back. He can play right back. That's a great squad member to have. Now you basically can only select him if you are putting him into your best 11. So that's an issue for future coaches. And then the other thing, if you're his teammate, like, it's a big FU to all of his teammates, particularly the ones who he's competing with. Like, if you're Kyle Walker, what do you think of Ben White right now? He's basically saying, not only do I think I'm better than you, I'm so confident in the fact that I'm better than you. I'm not even willing to be in the same squad unless they let me start. Like, that's such an insult to the other players that you are there for. And, the stronger argument then also becomes, this isn't like being the first choice at a club where there's not a huge amount of turnover. If you establish yourself, barring injury, you're probably going to be there for the long run. Like, squads are required for international tournaments. In the very least, you're almost certainly going to start one match, because if things go well for England in the Euros, they're going to shuffle the pack for the final group game. So you're going to start a match in the Euros. There's a good chance, especially with his versatility at center back and right back, that someone gets injured in either one of those positions, and he is all of a sudden first choice, even during the tournament itself, or someone is suspended. Who knows what happens? you could end up being the player who scores the winning goal for England in the Euros, even though you went into it not being the absolute starter. It's not a strange outcome. And then you consider how good England are at this period of time, not only in terms of strength and depth in the position, the right back position, center back, there's less strength and depth, but he is, kind of being perceived as a true right back at this moment in time. He's taking a big risk. Like, if England win the Euros this summer, I mean, that's a difficult decision to live with. The fact that you just sat out, because even being a squad member of that and never getting on the pitch would be amazing.
It is, but then, I mean, there's also that speculation that Ben White doesn't really enjoy football and doesn't really like football, and maybe that legitimately is part of it. Maybe he genuinely wouldn't feel disappointed or left out or sad that he wasn't on the England squad that won the Euros, because maybe he really doesn't care that much about the sport. Although he has denied that he doesn't love the sport, but there have been a lot of reports saying basically he never watches it when he's not playing. He, like once the season's over, he's done. Like he turns it off. It's a way. It's like an occupation in a way. So I mean, maybe that isn't going through his head. Maybe he just genuinely doesn't care.
It's possible, but hey, I don't love playing the bass, and I don't.
You're going to tell us you're in like a secret band?
I don't particularly love Coldplay's full set, aside from their major hits. I'm not a huge Coldplay fan. However, if Chris Martin called me up tomorrow and said, do I want to come play bass on Coldplay's upcoming world tour, I'm biting the bullet. I'm going to decide to go. So I think it's such a weird, people speak about this international commitment as if it's all time away from your family. It's so tough and all this stuff. Like, we baby professional athletes at times to the extent that it's unbelievable. Maybe the tournament itself can be a long time to be away from your family, especially depending on where that tournament takes place. I still think you'll be okay. Lots of people make far larger sacrifices for less enjoyable things and less money. But you'd think maybe if you're him, let's just sneak out another squad or two and be at the Euros and see how that goes. And then if that doesn't go well, then maybe sit out, fake some injuries for a while. Because I'm not going to give him too much credit for being open and honest about the fact that he wants to be unavailable for selection, because he didn't even do it face to face. He went through Edu, who's one of Arsenal's member of their coaching staff. Edu contacted Gareth Southgate and told Gareth Southgate that Ben White did not want to be available for the selection. So he wasn't even brave enough to call Gareth Southgate himself or send an email and say, this is a little bit like getting your mother to quit your job for you. I've not got a lot of respect for him in any part of how he's handled this.
Now, Eddie, what if Chris Martin called you and said, hey, my fiance Dakota Johnson said that they're down an actor for Madam Web Part 2. Can you fill in? Are you going to be in that movie?
Well, I know that's received a huge backlash, but you also know my opinions on the fact that pretty much anyone can act. I probably can't do worse based on the reception that it seems that movie has had. I'm in. I do it for free. If they're looking, I do it for free.
This is a movie that has a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Still a great dinner party story, What have you been up to recently? And I get to say, oh, you heard about that movie? I was in it.
I'm in the sequel.
You probably haven't heard about it, but do you remember the original? But 100%. I would take part. But yeah, it just makes me. And the thing that bothers about me, it's been a while since we had this discussion, but we obviously had it mostly around Naomi Osaka at one moment in time. And it's good that there's a greater recognition generally in society about mental health issues, and even within professional sports about the impact, that professional athletes are real people and they deal with real human issues regardless of their success and their fame and their wealth. What bothers me too about the Ben White situation is not only did he let that sit for a while, that when the whole World Cup thing happened, because now whenever people withdraw from squads or take time out, the assumption almost is that it's mental health related. Not only did he let that sit, but then even in future situations, I'm not going to say he's played up to it, but he certainly hasn't stopped the rumors. And it bothers me that you do such a disservice to people who are then genuinely suffering from mental health issues to just be like, well, it's a convenient excuse, isn't it? Because no one's going to be too critical of me.
Yeah. And I this is like not even technically should be able to make a comparison, but I don't buy he just doesn't like football is just a job to him and he doesn't care about it or enjoy it, because I mean, I'm playing hockey in like a beer league. And right now, this month, I've just played, since I've come back from our trip, I've just been playing awful, to the point where after every game, I am more angry than when I started playing the game because of how badly I played. And it's the point where I'm just like, I don't know if I want to fucking go play this week because I'm just going to get pissed off. At the same time, we've been talking about putting our team in for the national tournament in July. And there is like no way I'm not going to go play in like a major competition with just that like competitive level and like the thrill and excitement of competing and like on like a big stage, like, so I don't buy that, because I mean, how exciting and thrilling must it be, like you said, to play not only in an international tournament like the Euros or World Cup, but to play for a team that legitimately has a chance to win it. Like, I don't care how much you just don't even like playing. Just the thrill of that alone has to be such a great feeling.
Yeah, I think we give these athletes a pass. Most people don't like their jobs, but they still turn up and do them. Like for most people, it's not a passion. It's just a means to an end in terms of allowing you to afford your life and your lifestyle. And sometimes we allow ourselves to pretend that being a professional athlete would be really, really hard. And like, as much as you might think he doesn't go home and watch football, or it's not something it's not like a dream accomplished for him by representing England or playing in the Premier League, it's still a pretty nice life. Like, he didn't get to this stage of his as a professional athlete if he didn't take some pleasure or interest in the very least of like working out. So like, just treat it as this guy gets paid to exercise. Even if he wants to dismiss, I don't care if my team wins that much, I don't care if we win the Premier League, I don't care if we win the Euros, that won't define me as a person. Fine, maybe. But he's still being paid millions of pounds a year to do something that really isn't that hard. These guys train for 2.5 hours a day, 4 times a week, have meals prepped for them. Like, this is not, no matter how much he doesn't enjoy it, it's still kind of enjoyable, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. And most jobs aren't, and most people don't enjoy their job. So the sympathy that people extend to professional athletes at time, like, it's funny when people get the backlash as a professional athlete, and then there are these people who come in and defend them on their behalf, like on Reddit or Twitter or whatever. Whereas if someone turns up and goes like, some McDonald's employee just says, I hate my job, those same people are like, you piece of shit, you don't know how hard it was in my day, I worked. Get some kind of work ethic behind you. Meanwhile,
all right, boomer.
Multimillionaire gets defended. But
all right, moving on, Eddie. Would you like a story? Oh, would you like a story about?
I've got a story. It's sports related, but could help us transition into other things. I don't know what you've got lined up.
Okay, go ahead.
Speaking about passion for sport, I was having a conversation with someone whose name I will leave out for their own privacy and anonymity, based on some of the details that I'm about to share.
Is this an in-person convo?
No, but it's a person.
Okay, I know who it is.
Okay. who said they were passionate about bowling, like that bowling is their thing. They bowl at least once a week. They love bowling. This is something that they really, really enjoy. And so my follow-up question to that was, what's your high score? Now, given that information, I think it's been like a year or two where this person has been bowling on average at least once a week. What would have to be, like, what's the over-under on the high score where you would feel relatively impressed, or at least not unimpressed by what number they tell you?
235.
Okay, that's pretty high. You went really high on that. I don't know if... I think I would have said, like, to be impressed.
I mean, for instance, I've bowled a 200, and I'm a terrible bowler and bowl once every other year.
I would have said probably 160 or above, because I don't know how much, you never...
No, that's terrible.
Well,
if you're bowling every week and your best game is a 160.
Okay, well, then prepare yourself. Because
oh man,
the answer I was given was a 40, which I thought originally was a bit. They are adamant that this is not a bit. They have never bowled a strike. That 40, and they sent a video of them recording the scoreboard with the 40 on it, which is the only thing that made me be convinced that this wasn't a bit, because the only reason you would record that score is if it was either your low score or your high score, right? Like, you're not just recording the 40 for no reason. I didn't believe it. It's taken me some time, but I now
that means you're averaging 4 pins a frame.
Yeah, with no spares.
So
no spares, no strikes. Like, because any spare.
But no, it's not even no spares, no strikes. It's like you're just getting pins. You're just getting like a few.
No, but I think it's worth acknowledging.
Like, I didn't get a gutter ball.
Pretty much. But my point is, the no spares, no strikes is important, because either one of those would ruin your attempt at a 40, if you see what I mean. Like, you'd almost guarantee 50, 60 plus through one strike or one spare. But yeah.
Does this person have arms?
So, you see, these were similar questions that these are like, your reaction is identical to what mine was. And I was treated as if I was both slightly an asshole for the way in which I was reacting, and that this was not as unbelievable as I was treated.
No, this is unbelievable. This is not real. I could use my legs and score above a 40. I'm not even joking. I could just push the ball with my foot and get over a 40.
They wanted to point out the bumpers were not used. This was... Now, I want to say this person is not a listener to the podcast. I did say that this conversation was going to be mentioned on an upcoming podcast.
Oh, this is
episode.
Sam, isn't it?
And
I would bring Sam back on the podcast to discuss this.
Sam dreams of a 40. That's he's never reached those kind of athletic performances. But no, my response was identical to your own. Now, if this person is just having me on completely and this is the greatest bit of all time, then
it's a weird bit to take.
It is, but
is it Tim?
But the commitment to the bit is admirable. If this is a bit, but
is there a potential that I could travel to where this person is located and challenge them to a game of a match, a bowling match?
It's conceivably possible, yeah.
Oh, I think I might know who this is now.
It's conceivably possible, but I don't think it is who you think it is. I'll say that. But no, it is conceivably possible. But yeah, no, it's we'll see what their reaction is. They were not flattered by the type of response that I had to the initial claim. I don't think they will have enjoyed listening to this bit, so we've probably not a repeat listener.
Are you sure they didn't mean lowest score?
Well, they definitely didn't mean lowest score. The question is, how much of a bit was this? This is a bit, if it is a bit that they've committed to over multiple days, because I have referenced it subsequently and been like, that was a great bit. And they were like, it's not a bit, I'm being genuine. And then also expressed the feeling that I was making them feel somewhat bad for the extent to which I was laughing at the 40.
Wow.
And once they sent the video that showed the recording of the score.
I want a video of them bowling.
Well, I'll ask if that's possible.
Okay.
I mean, it can't be impressive. Now, imagine the form is perfect, but the outcome is never good. That would be even
and then you're just like, all you got to do is shift one step over to the left.
You're on the
next match, do 70.
You're on the wrong lane. This is the reason you haven't been registering a score. Yeah, no, and supposedly,
and this is normal bowling. This isn't like the thin pins or whatever.
No, it's not
called,
that like
the candlestick,
the New England thing,
or the small balls.
No, this is traditional 10-pin bowling, whatever you'd like to call it, at normal bowling lanes. And
it's not like cosmic. It's not that the lights are distracting them, that they can't bowl in the dark, and the glowing is like fucking them up.
It's probably that. I think they're epileptic and they keep having fits mid frames.
I still think I could bowl a 40.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know what the feedback is to this analysis, but I don't think it's going to be particularly well received.
This talk does make me want to go bowling. I haven't gone in a while.
The story that I then told as a result of this, I tried to explain our Euro versus USA bowling experience, the Ryder Cup of bowling, which Big Dave then pointed out is the Weber Cup. That's a story that whenever I try and explain it to other people, it never really lands. Like, it's hard for me to convey how both enjoyable and amusing those few tournaments were.
Talk about us.
Yeah.
Like when we went against it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, when it was like you, me, Tim, Big Dave. When we used to take
and
part.
We were averaging like 150 for that.
Yeah, none of us
150.
Yeah, like anything sub 120 was losing your team.
Was a bad round for us. Yeah,
and none of us are either good bowlers or regular bowlers. Like, we're not claiming to be spectacular.
No, but we have arms and hands.
What do you think Stephen Hawking could have bowled? That becomes the real question. Like, head to head, this person against Stephen Hawking in the final few years of his life. I guess he is just
Eddie. I'm gonna be honest and truthful. It's a very close match.
Like, I guess Stephen Hawking is just driving his wheelchair into the ball
and then stopping and letting the ball fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, he wouldn't have to do. You can obviously afford to have quite a few gutter balls. So it's a pretty forgiving target to set your sights on.
Yeah. That's crazy.
All right. Well, we will gain at least one listener for one episode as a result of that story. I think we will then immediately lose one. But what's the next topic?
Well, I have two stories. You pick your own adventure, as we like to do sometimes. Would you like a story about condoms, or would you like a story about leg amputations?
Well, leg amputations seems fitting based on our previous topic, so we'll go leg amputations.
Okay, so according to Business Insider, a student in Taiwan was persuaded by his friend to get his legs amputated for a $1.3 million insurance scam, but wound up only getting $7,000 and was sent to jail. So this is what they decided to do. They decided to ride their motorcycles around Taiwan for like 8 hours at night. And then once they got back, the individual soaked their feet in dry ice for, I think it said 10 hours to get them so badly frostbitten that they needed double amputation. When they then went to the doctors and said that their legs are frostbitten because they were riding on their motorbikes all night, the doctor said something was amiss because he bore no shoe or sock marks and his injuries appeared symmetrical, which are inconsistent with a naturally occurring frostbite. They also added that the coldest temperature for that month was only 42 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is almost impossible to get any frostbite, let alone enough frostbite to require a double amputation.
Yeah, this is a pretty horrific story. $1.3 million is certainly not enough for me to get either of my legs amputated, let alone both of them. But if I were, one of the favorite bar questions I usually love to ask people is, like, how much would it take for you to cut off a finger or whatever? This does. I've always argued when people say there's no amount of money. I always say there is at some point enough money. We just can't realistically reach it. This is obviously a sign that there's a lot of people who will reach that limit a lot sooner than you would expect. let's throw out how bad of an idea it is for the insurance scam there. The way in which they've decided to. I thought when you started the motorcycle thing that they were going to like intentionally crash to try and have such damaged legs that it led to amputation. Odds of pulling that off limited, but it would have made more sense. There must be so many, like getting your legs just crushed, like have someone drive into your legs or something, like there've got to be better ways, because also not only is the risk of being caught with their method obviously high, as it turned out, but then that's an excruciatingly painful way to go about it. I mean, there's no good injury that leads to amputated legs, but I think intentionally getting your legs frostbitten over a period of 10 hours has to be up there with one of the more painful ones. And the commitment to pulling off an insurance scam, there got to have been better insurance scams they could have aimed for. Like, I wonder which ones they went through before they landed on this. They must have failed on some of those, like, slip and claim ones. Like how many grocery stores did they slip over when the slippery and wet sign wasn't there? But yeah.
So this was it sounds like it was actually orchestrated by his friend who kind of convinced him to do it. And his friend at the time, before they had done it, tricked the individual into signing a legal note obligating that he pay him $800,000 of the $1.3 million.
This guy's an idiot then. This guy's just, yeah, I mean, this friend is awful.
And you know what, Eddie? This guy could still bowl a 40.
This guy is awful. The friend. I mean, this is like psychopath levels to what you're
supposedly
doing.
There was gangsters and mob related monies involved.
I mean, yeah, but no matter how desperate, it's still you're a psychopath to do that. But yeah, no, that's pretty terrible. Take us on to the next. Take us on to condoms. Hopefully, that's more uplifting. Okay. Although I'm skeptical.
This one comes to us from the Washington Post.
Oh, a reputable
source. Sex is back at the Olympic Village. Paris is set to hand out 300,000 condoms at the Olympic Village this year. So that is a huge jump from the last Olympics, where they were actually discouraging any sort of contact due to COVID, but falls slightly short of the Rio 2016 Olympics, where they gave 450,000 condoms out. These ones, apparently, the Paris ones are going to be like specially decorated and have like nice things on it. So
I got to get my hands
my question to you is, can you get your hands on a Paris Olympic condom for everyone?
I'll do my best. I'll see. I'll say Vascam. He'd probably be our strongest candidate. But yeah, I'll do my best. I'll do my best to get my hands on some of those. That would be a cool little... I guess the downside is the only way you can show off the decoration is to open it. And then once you've opened it, you kind of got to get rid of it. Like, you're not going to... Like, the actual packaging might look somewhat cool, but...
No, I think it's the packaging.
Oh, it's not the condom itself?
No, I don't think there's like Olympic rings on the condom itself.
Are you sure?
That would be amazing.
But yeah, I'll do my best. I'll see. I'm sure they'll be out and about somewhere at some point, but we'll see what happens.
So they're redesigning the packet of the condoms to center around the theme of sexual consent, and is encouraging a nod to the festive framework of the games.
That sounds like less fun. I'm not saying I'm not in favor of sexual consent. I obviously 100% am, but a condom that commemorates sexual consent is less enjoyable than just some Olympic rings being tossed on it. But yeah, still cool. I'll do my best. All right. Any quick little TV movie catch up? I'll say I have completed Masters of the Air. It's a meh for me. I'm not going to recommend it, but it is what it is. It's such a disappointment following on how good Band of Brothers and The Pacific are. Like, this is, and especially because I think if you think of it, like, Band of Brothers, one of the greatest bits of television ever made. The Pacific is very good, but not as good. And then this is, so the trajectory, it's not a great thing.
Did you start Shogun yet?
I didn't, but I did start Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which you had also said you were watching. I'm not loving it so far.
It's okay.
My issue with it feels like it doesn't know what it is. Sometimes it's
No,
being like very joking, kind of comedic, and then the
I
next
think it's
point,
always supposed to be kind of funny.
but then at times they're being sort of serious. And I'm also like, they're idiots. Like they're terrible at their jobs. If we're supposed to take any of it seriously,
But they're
like
also really good.
yeah.
That's what I don't get.
So I struggle with it. Like I don't know how I'm supposed to be enjoying it. Like I don't mind it being funny at times, but I don't know. Am I supposed to be viewing it kind of as like a slapsticky farce, where I'm supposed to think these people are incompetent yet successful, or am I supposed to think that deep down they're actually pretty good? They just make mistakes. I I don't know. I don't think it knows. That's my big issue with it.
Yeah, I think it's trying to be one of like, I don't want to say new age, but more recent TV shows where there is like a lot of action, but they still fit humor into it. So it's like a somewhat serious, but kind of light with the jokes, but it doesn't really hit that way. Like there are times where some of it is really funny, and then there are other times where it's like I'm laughing and I'm like, oh, I actually think they're serious here. Like it's a tough read sometimes, but it's still like it's watchable. Like it's
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. I wouldn't. Again, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're in my situation, you're completely out of TV shows. There's not a lot of.
Shogun. You gotta watch Shogun.
I'll give it a go. I think I'm at that point. Yeah, we'll give it a go.
I did go see Dune 2.
All right, here we go. Spoiler alert for listeners who have not.
Yes.
Obviously, last episode, I gave my reaction, but we didn't give any plot elements away. I guess this will be our last topic, I suppose. So if you haven't seen Dune 2 already and you plan on doing so, if you want to avoid spoilers, I guess you can switch off now.
Yeah. I loved it.
Okay. We knew that was coming.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's like a perfect movie. There are definitely some issues with the plot, and there's definitely some issues with the editing. But with all of that, just the visuals and the audio and everything, like it is just so enjoyable to soak in that movie and watch it. I really, really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, visually it is stunning. I guess let me ask you then my criticisms that I mentioned last week. Okay. Pacing. How did you feel about the pacing? So for listeners who didn't hear last week, my feeling was you spend a lot of time in this build up and then all of the plot wraps itself up in an unnecessarily quick period of time.
The pacing is uneven, and that's kind of the issue. So there was like 2 or 3 parts where I think they did I want to say a bad job, but it wasn't the best in terms of editing and like the transition and the pace. So the first one that really got to me is as he's becoming like the Messiah, one of his first tests is he has to traverse across the desert to that one hill and then come back. And he starts doing it, and then his like love interest joins him.
Zendaya,
and then Zendaya, and then the next thing you know, they're like taking down one of the spice picker upper things. Like there was a good 3-4 minutes. I was like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Like, did he complete it? Did he not complete it? But it's probably like months later. But they don't even like acknowledge the fact that his first real big test of being like a Fremen is, and like you don't even know the result of it. So that was kind of a weird one. That like that cut and transition was just strange. And then the 2/3 in, I guess once what you're talking about is like once it really starts to ramp up very quickly, the whole movie, he's like, I don't want to go south. I don't want to go south. I'm not going south. I don't want to go south. And then literally there's one scene where he's like, all right, let's go south. And you're like, wait, what? What just happened? And I see what they were trying to say is the reasoning why, but it was such a quick heel turn that it would have been much better to see that progress a little more. And then once that happened, it was like the movie just like went like 2 times speed, like on a podcast, so that was, and I get it. It's a 2.5 hour movie already, Like I said to my friend, I wouldn't want this in the theater, but I bet you there's like a 3 hour, 15-minute director's cut that is actually a better movie, that if you were allowed to like take breaks and watch it in multiple settings, is probably a much better movie from a plot standpoint, because it probably does explain a lot more and covers a lot more and lets you understand what's going on a little better.
Maybe. Okay, I'll throw out, before you get onto the things you really liked, throw out some other things I didn't. Accents. How did you feel? I mean, you kind of already dipped.
We were talking about this. That part doesn't really bother me. Okay. The only thing that is funny is Austin Butler just loves to copy an accent, and he sounds just like Skarsgård, who plays the Baron. But it's stupid because his brother, Dave Bautista, sounds nothing like the Baron. So it's like no one gave Dave Bautista the memo to be like, hey, we're all going to sound alike. You know?
Okay, speaking of Austin Butler, maybe going back to the pacing, or if you were to edit it, maybe an unnecessary amount of time dedicated to his character to eventually just have him be in one fight and get killed. Like, he gets built up as this incredibly integral piece, and then all we really get out of it is he's a bit more aggressive with the military tactics. That works really well. And then he gives him a bit of a challenge in a fight, but he eventually dies.
Yeah, and so I agree with you, and I think for me, I think there needed to be a lot more of him, because if you build him up to be this big bad and this big character, but then you only have 2 real scenes with him, then it didn't hit me when he died, because I didn't really know much about him and how, you know, good he was as a warrior or whatever. And I think the big area where they had to have cut some stuff was once he gets to Arrakis and starts to like demolish all the Fremen. They don't really show any of that. It goes from him being there, and then the next thing you know is he's destroyed that whole underground civilization. Like, if there had been more of him personally going around and like murdering people and, you know, putting them at knife point to admit where things are, and showing how just like psychotic he is of a person to get to that stage to then blow up that whole underground, I think that develops him more. But as it was, you see one scene where he looks like maybe not even that good of a fighter, because he has to drug everyone to win his fights or wear a shield. And then he beats the shit out of Dave Bautista, and then he blows up the thing, and that's it. He's in it for like 10 minutes before that big fight.
Yeah, no, I just felt like we could have just heard him discussed almost without.
Yeah,
and there's a whole build up to
or you build him up to be a big bad, right?
He could be sexually manipulated. We had like a whole part dedicated to that, and it's like never mentioned again, and that didn't come into play. And I get it. I'm sure there's plenty of people listening to this who are big fans of the novel and who are annoyed because obviously they have to stay true to however that's dealt with. But these are just like editing decisions that you could have made in terms of how much screen time someone gets. I'm not saying change the actual plot. But yeah, that I didn't really get. This is going to be more about the kind of canon and the plot. I guess something that I struggle with Dune, I can't remember if I mentioned it, just like questionable military tactics. It's like a society in which they're both using swords, but also have like spaceships and rocket launchers. Like, it's a weird, you know, like at times they're defending themselves, they're just pulling knives out. It's like, why don't you just shoot everybody? And then also they could have just used those worms to just kill everybody all the time. Like, why are they risking their lives? Just send the worms in. Like, why are we, it's the Game of Thrones dragon thing. Like, you make them too strong, but then you have to limit how much they can be used, because otherwise it would just be game over.
Yeah. Why not just put the worm noisemakers all in that base that they were in? Just like sneak in 10 of them and just have every worm just come in and just like suck everything up.
Seemingly these guys can like crawl underground to sneak up on people.
Yeah.
So just crawl and send 10 people, crawl underground, send the little beat things in, and then there you go. Game over.
Boxes.
Yeah. I mean, but anyway, I visually stunning. I don't think it should win any Oscars or anything aside for those parts.
I think it should win every technical Oscar there is.
I'm fine with that. but I don't think any acting Oscars. I don't want to hear how amazing Timothée Chalamet is in it. I think he's.
I thought he was good. Actually, I'll give him credit. What I did enjoy was so up to the transition where he then thinks he's now the Messiah and does that heel turn. They do a really good job of how he like carries himself before that, where he does look like a slender, smaller kid, and then once he becomes that persuasive leader, they kind of film him differently, and he even like kind of moves a little differently. Like he makes himself look bigger than he is in that last half hour or hour, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like that was definitely just like I was able to really tell like just the way he was speaking, the way he was like his posture. He definitely had that posture of like I'm the leader now, like I'm the alpha. That was pretty cool. The other thing, going back to the worms, like the dragons and the worms, the voice. At what point do you not just constantly use the voice that controls everyone? Like when he's fighting Austin Butler, why isn't he just voicing him to have Austin Butler kill himself? Like
Yeah.
why is that not being used more?
No, I mean this is an issue in a lot of like sci-fi and stuff, right? Is you kind of create these like OP elements, and then for reasons we don't know, they just can't constantly use them because otherwise there would be no interest in the story.
So I have a question for you because I didn't feel this. I had like I felt it a little, but not as much as I think as I should have. Do you feel that Timothée Chalamet has like an Anakin Skywalker like switch at the end of that movie?
I mean, I guess to speculate on this, right? I'm sure this is all in the book, so we're going to guess because neither of us have read it, and it probably. But yes, I think that would be the implication. Is that he sort of enjoyed the evil.
He's gone almost like the dark side.
Yeah, he's like the Darth Vader transition is nearing. But yeah, I'm sure. Like, again, we're
the director Villeneuve says that when he goes in and kills the Baron, that's like him switching fully, and that he's not saying gone dark side, but that he's now let the power get to him and has kind of gone into a more evil mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he gave the speech to Zendaya about how he would always love her, but then immediately offers to marry the other guy's daughter, it's probably not the greatest indication of still being on the good side. I think that was. But again, it goes back to the pacing. It feels like that happened so rapidly, relatively speaking, and that we could have seen that gradually. And yes, it gets hinted at in terms of little bits, and basically, again, this is where I'd be critical. It gets hinted at because he says something, and then we just cut to grumpy old Zendaya in the corner, shaking her head, going, this is how they control us. And then she gets, ignored. Well, she, with her very believable regional accent. I don't know. It's not a movie for me. Visually amazing. If you enjoy movies in that way, then go to see it for that reason alone. Obviously, Dune is now, super popular novel. The original movie's cult classic. But yeah, I don't think it's as special as people are making out. And I don't think most people really enjoy movies on a visual level to the degree in which it's being praised. I'd put myself in that category. It's like, this is cool. Same way I felt about Oppenheimer. Visually, whoa, that's pretty cool. But I'm not like loving it as a result of that experience.
Yeah. I think I'm a little more on the other side. Like, I think I genuinely enjoyed Oppenheimer because of the visual and the audio effects. Like, I don't know. You get kind of wowed at a movie theater. I like that aspect of it. But just from a technical standpoint, he's just so good at just some of the shit that he creates is so cool. Like in the first one, I love those like dragonfly helicopters. Like that's just such a cool idea. That's something they invented. That's not like how it is in the book. In this one, I don't know if you remember that scene where they have like those like metal magnetic panels that they shoot out that like attach to the thing and end up being bombs. Like that was just so cool, like as an idea, and then so cool to see it. Like some of those visuals were just awesome. Even the riding of the worm, when we look at it compared to like Game of Thrones and they ride the dragon, substantially better.
I mean,
like
the budgets,
night
though,
and day better.
I mean, for context, I think I saw the Dune
190 million.
But it has to break even. It had to make $500 million to break even. Now it's going to go way above that, like it's a profitable venture. But yeah, if you threw an equivalent budget behind Game of Thrones, the dragons would have looked incredible too. You know, like there's that moment when unlimited money allows you to do incredibly cool things. But because, you know, this is like the Steve Jobs argument. Is there a difference between him? He's just going, hey, graphic designers, hey, visual artists, can you make that look better? And they're going, yeah, we can do that.
No, it was 190 million to make, not 500.
I'm telling you, to break even, because to make the movie, to promote the movie, to do all of the things associated with like the actual release of Dune, until they get to 500 million, which they got in the first weekend, so it wasn't an issue. But it's like 500 million was their break even target. So like with that, until they got to that moment, they would have lost money on Dune unless they had 500 million in, I mean, not just box office, because they're obviously going to have revenue post cinematic release. But and then final question, you kind of touch on it there. It just goes back to the worm thing. Why do they sneak up on these like these spice miner things when they can just blow them up? Like, why do they have, again, going back to the military tactics involved? Why do they hide under the sand and then get involved in hand-to-hand combat? Because all they do is they kill everyone on the ground in hand-to-hand combat, and then they blow it up. It's like, why don't you blow it up first? See who's left. They're probably surrendering, and then deal with it. But like,
well, I mean, or you're just blowing it up and then you're calling it a worm because there's a huge explosion and the worm will eat everyone else left.
Seemingly doesn't happen though. Seemingly, the worms are very sensitive to people walking. It's like these inconsistencies. I don't want to, because I know there are going to be listeners who just think I'm overly critical, but I don't know.
Oh, you are overly critical.
It's one of my finer character traits.
No, I really enjoyed it. The only thing, again, I'm at a point now where, you know, Congress likes to debate and make laws that are dumb and pointless and probably waste taxpayer money.
We're not political.
At least one of them could be, if a movie is over 2.5 hours, there needs to be a 10-minute intermission bathroom break.
Do you know what? If you put this as your main policy, I think you could get
that and the Monday after the Super Bowl is a holiday.
Yeah, if you had only those two things. If people were like, well, what about tax? I don't want to talk about
Don't
tax.
worry about it.
What about military spending? I don't care about military spending. What about Supreme Court appointments? Someone else will deal with it.
Not my wheelhouse.
All I'm here for is one holiday and intermissions. And everything else the world will look at will take care of itself. You probably wouldn't become president, but you'd win a few votes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's bullshit because the movie doesn't start. We timed it 40 minutes after like
the
things start.
The listed time. Yeah.
It's crazy. So it's what? It was a 2-hour, 40-minute movie, and then you're adding another 40 on top.
Especially when you consider a lot of the dorks that love Dune are the same kind of dorks that have to see all of the previews.
Easy. Let's relax there. Sci-fi's mainstream, buddy.
That have to see all of the previews. You know, the Venn diagram of those two groups, there's a massive overlap. So, yeah, I think when you factor that in, then yeah, you're really getting people into a 3-hour plus commitment. An intermission wouldn't kill you. You know? Just throw one in. There were plenty of opportunities in that movie. There are moments when they could do a little break. And I wouldn't even care. Say you did the break, and then you said it's a 10-minute intermission. But you know what? The first 5 minutes when you're back from intermission, that can just be the previously on. Just in case you got these morons who can't remember what they saw. You know, I'm not a fan of the previously on, even on TV shows I watch weekly. If you really had to satisfy those idiots who can't remember anything, throw the previously on when you come back from the intermission.
Yeah. Or do a 10-minute intermission, do a black screen for 5 minutes, and then the next 5 go back 5 minutes in the movie and just keep playing.
What I would love to do a previously on, but have it be nothing that happened in the first part of the movie. Just completely mess with people. That would be the real thing to do. Be like, oh, now do I believe the first 90 minutes of the movie I watched or this 2.5-minute summary? Which one am I committing to?
Christopher Walken, good as an emperor or no?
I think with Christopher Walken, the issue becomes, right, he's Christopher Walken. Yeah. And
he's not trying to be anyone but Christopher Walken at this point in his life.
I don't think he ever was at any point in his life. But and then the accent thing, I know it doesn't bother you, but you then got Christopher Walken voice.
No, that's not an accent. That's different.
It's a little.
There's not like a region of the world that talks like that.
How great would it have been if his whole family had to do Christopher Walken impressions?
Florence Pugh has to do it.
Then I would have been fine with it. I'm also going to say Florence Pugh. I've seen some things with her that I enjoy. Overall, I'm not sure I'm going to give her the good actress accolades that she gets thrown at her all the time. In particular, going back, she doesn't, most of the things you see in her in an American accent, it is not a super convincing American accent for me at times. Like it feels really forced that I think when I talk. Like I really struggle with it at times.
This guy's got an accent issue. You got an accent fetish.
Well, as someone who's had to deal with their own accent issues over the course of their lifetime, maybe I become more aware of it, I guess.
I have one quick 1-minute thing. We talked, I think last episode, about Richard Lewis passing away. And I had said that the last episode I had seen was the one where him and Larry David, so this is Curb Your Enthusiasm, him and Larry David were arguing like who was going to live longer to fight to put themselves in the will. And then as it be, Richard Lewis then died, 3 days after that episode. But then you said he looked even worse in the next episode. So I have watched that episode now, and I think they literally filmed that episode live, and he's been Weekend at Bernie's.
He looked really bad. And obviously
I felt terrible knowing that he had died and then watching that episode. And it was 15 times worse than that episode that I was talking about before, the one on the golf course. Like, it was really bad.
No. I mean, he looks like The Walking Dead. Like, there's no doubt. Like, if you just, brought any stranger who was completely unfamiliar with Curb Your Enthusiasm, Richard Lewis, or whatever, you said, watch this TV show and tell me which one of these actors has died within the 6 months after filming it. I mean, every single person is saying that guy. And obviously he had a really tough couple of years in his life, so it's sad in that respect. But yeah, he looked awful. I mean, really bad. To the point at which you're like,
it's cringy to watch.
Leave him out. Like, it's nice for him to have this little farewell. And Curb Your Enthusiasm brought Richard Lewis to a lot of people who were previously unaware of him. But yeah, that's a bad goodbye. I'll put it that way. It's not the goodbye I hope to have.
Well, I guess he got the goodbye of doing the From Hell one last time, because that was always his like big bit.
Yeah, that was his thing.
And they brought it back in that episode.
They knew. Yeah. All right. Any other TV show, movie, anything left to discuss?
No, that's about it.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
See you.
Cheerio.